Hello, and welcome to the Kathleen Spracklin podcast. I am a woman on a mission to gather a cadre of writers, thinkers, and teachers who are transforming the world, one character at a time. And it all starts with one thing: a deep understanding of human motivation, why people do what they do, and the forces that drive them. But for the moment, I'm on a side mission, helping people get started on their Zettelkasten, get moving on their Zettelkasten, and get the most out of their Zettelkasten. I'm getting so many questions that this is mine. I'm going to try to stick to it until the questions die down and the answers have all revealed themselves. So thank you for your questions, because that's what's motivating me to give you this information. This is episode 142, and it has to do with the question of gathering quotes. This question comes from Dan, and he didn't address it directly to me. He threw it out there on a forum that is Scott Shepard's forum that I belong to, and he also belongs to. And he mentioned that he's wanting to gather quotes from a number of different authors, and he's thinking of establishing a section in his main box to gather those quotes. And what did we think about it? My concern is I don't like to see anything happening in a Zettelkasten that's creating a silo, a block of cards that are for one purpose only, and you don't contribute to the rest of the Zettelkasten, and the rest of the Zettelkasten doesn't contribute to it. To me, that's just a glorified notebook. You might as well get a 3-ring binder and start collecting them there if you're not going to let them interact with the rest of your Zettelkasten. But there is a very, very solid Zettelkasten way of handling these that is very powerful. And so that's what I want to share with you. And so I'm going to show you my cards so that we can get that part done. Okay, here's an example of a quote from Richard Feynman. And Feynman is one, he has some great ways of saying things. And so I decided it'd be nice to gather up some of his quotes. And so here's one from my box. And the quote is, "You must not fool yourself, and you are the easiest person to fool." Well, this to me is a regular card that's going to go into my regular Zettelkasten based on the idea. And the idea is something that I'm going to encapsulate in the tagline. Now, pardon me, this tagline is a little bit messy, but well, welcome to real life. This is a real card, and real cards sometimes are messy. The tagline is, Feynman warns not to fool yourself. And I identified warns, fool, and yourself as the terms that I would index it under. I first underlined not and then said, nah, I don't want to index not. So I left with warns, fool, and yourself. Notice that I did not index Feynman. If I find myself tempted to put a name in my index, I've got to think very long and hard about why. Why do I have a name there? This is supposed to be ideas, but I'm collecting quotes on Feynman. So what gives here? Well, this card is filed based on the idea presented on the card. It's not filed in a collection of Feynman quotes. It's filed where the quote goes based on the content and based on what else is in my Zettelkasten. So then how do I collect cards? Well, the answer is really quite simple, and I will share it with you. The answer is that I collect quotes for an author on a bib card. Why not? If I were working with a Feynman book, I'd put the book on a bib card and I wouldn't think twice about it. That's the logical thing to do. Well, I think also the quotes belong on a bib card. It's a very simplified card name because it's just the initials of his name, because there's no title. It's just quotes by him. I suppose I could have said RF_Q. And maybe if I were thinking about creating this video when I made this card, maybe that's what I would have done. But anyway, it's just R.RF. And like any good bib card, the magic is on the back. I always put the name of the bib card on the back so that when I want to reference it quickly, I don't have to flip it over to get the name. But that's just a quirk. Let's take a look at what the back of my bib card looks like. Well, here's the quote that I pulled the card for, 1J4A1. Feynman warns not to fool yourself. And that it tells me where I put the card in my Zettelkasten. And I can see that there's another one there, which is about Feynman's 12 favorite problems, and they percolate in his subconscious. So that was another Feynman quote. And kind of along with that, I've got one more that I Googled just because I was making this video and I wondered if maybe I would need one to go through as part of the example. And so this one is one that says, I would rather have a question that can't be answered than an answer that can't be questioned. So this one does not have yet its address or its tagline, but I would first come up with a tagline, underscore the terms that I'm going to keep, and then place this card based on the idea on the card. And after that happens, then it would come over here with the address where I put it, and the tagline that I assigned to it will go on the bib card. And it's just a very natural way. Now, bib cards are pretty much static, but they grow. Face it. You're working on a book. You started a bib card. You put it down for some other reason, and you take it up again. Guess what? Your bib card stalled, and then it went forward, just like your quote card. It's this in every way, shape, and form is a bib card, and it's the appropriate way of handling it. That way you don't get any silos in your Zettelkasten. Your whole Zettelkasten gets the benefit of these great quotes, and you get to bump into them when you're working in that area, and not often a silo where you would only go back to it if you were specifically looking for quotes. Well, I promised Dan that I would put a link to this podcast over there in Scott Shepherd's forum, and I will do that. And so, Dan, if you catch that, let me know if this answered your question or not, or if you found it helpful. And anyone else, if you have any questions about this or any of the ideas that I talk about in my podcast, just drop them in the comments. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.